Hey. So, we are discussing a powerful and important topic today: imperfections. Imperfections are a natural part of being human. They contribute to our uniqueness and our beauty. Imperfections make us original, and they make us more interesting when we embrace them. Welcome back to the Big Up YuSelf show. I am your host and big sister, Winsome Alexander. I'm a self-empowerment mentor, certified in crisis intervention, and I've been nominated one of Texas Inspiring Women for my work with survivors of trauma since 2008. Please subscribe to the channel and be part of this beautiful, supportive community of healers and those who are healing. And when you subscribe, turn on the notification bell, please, so you don't miss an episode when we upload or go live. Also, please show your support by leaving us a thumbs up, a comment, and share with someone. All right? Thank you. Let's get started. Hey, Marilyn. Marilyn has joined us today. Thank you, Marilyn, for joining us. All right. So let's get started. Now, all right. So, as you may have noticed, I share many things in common with my guests. And today I'm talking about an imperfection I have in common with today's guest, Melanie Clampett. Hi, Melanie.
Hey, Winsome. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. We both have a very rare voice disorder called Spasmodic Dysphonia, which is still a mystery to the medical community. And you might have noticed that my voice sounds a little different. Well, you'll hear Melanie's voice in a moment, but let me introduce her, right? She is a dedicated studio owner, practitioner, facilitator, and empowerment coach. She's on a mission to guide individuals in recognizing and listening to their inner voice, acknowledging their truth, and creating a life that is authentically theirs. With over 22 years of practice and exploration, Melanie shares unconventional, unique tools and processes that she has acquired through her journey. Her personal experience of overcoming a little-known vocal disorder called spasmodic dysphonia, which almost led to the loss of her voice in 2016, still inspires her path of reclaiming her authentic voice and self-expression. Melanie's enthusiasm for empowering others to reclaim their voices and live authentically shines through her work of helping with self-discovery, healing, and transformation. Thank you so much for being here today, Melanie. Wow.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always so interesting to hear yourself introduced.
Yes, right. You're like, who is this person? Who is this person? All right. So just before we get started, let's get centered. Let's take 3 nice deep breaths. We're going to breathe in and hold for 4 and breathe out 3 times. Let's go. Nice. Now, as is our custom in getting started, will you please tell us about your name?
Yes, I will. I think this is a fascinating question that you begin with.
Right.
So my first name is Melanie, and the literal meaning of my name is dark. So it's, people have stories around it like, oh, it's a dark-skinned goddess, or I think people try to make it sound a little nicer, but it's the literal meaning is dark.
Wow. Did
Yeah.
you always know that, or did you just recently find out?
No, I've always known it. I've always,
What?
and when I was younger, I never liked my name. I
Yeah.
always felt I never liked it. I liked my sister's name, but as I've gotten older and more mature, I've actually learned to really enjoy the name. I don't meet that many Melanies. So
Right.
it's been nice to have kind of a unique name. And
Yes.
here's something I thought was interesting. I actually followed a guru for a little while, and she gave me another name, which I actually used for about a year or two.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that name?
So the name is Mangala, and it means one who brings auspiciousness.
Wow. That
So
is,
I was really, on board with the name and all of that. And then I realized it's the Melanie in me that actually requires the healing and the transformation. And so I went back to
wow.
Melanie.
That's powerful. That is powerful. So you've come to understand what the correlation between the meaning of the dark and you needing to to grow, expand, and
All
become
of it.
light. Oh my gosh, that
Yes,
is so cool.
absolutely. And it's often, the pregnant possibilities often live in this space that seems dark, right? It's shining the light of our awareness into those dark spaces and being able to reclaim that wisdom. And, kind of circling to the vocal disorder, it's really, led to me doing the work to go into those dark places in my world where
Yes.
I was, hiding my gifts,
Yes.
hiding. I get ahead of myself.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh my goodness, this is so rich, so rich. I'm so glad you shared all that with us. Hi, Culture Images has joined us as well. Okay, so all right, now this is a very supportive space, right? So next, let's talk about. We usually at this juncture talk about a trauma that we have overcome or are overcoming. Um, so what is on your heart to share today?
What a great question. I actually intentionally didn't look at this too much, so I didn't want to overthink it.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, well, especially looking with developing a vocal disorder, kind of tying it in with that, I would say it's the trauma. When I would use my voice, the things that I spoke to growing up, I usually spoke to the things nobody wanted to hear. And so when I would express myself, I received a lot of anger. I received a lot. For a while there, I thought my middle name was Shut Up because, my mom was really had a difficult time with who I am in the world.
Yeah.
One of the things that she would always say is, you and I clashed since you were born.
Wow.
So it's, something that I've really had to work to overcome is being like, oh, I actually have something valuable to
Mhm,
communicate. I have something I can actually express myself and it's safe to do so.
mhm, mhm. Wow. So you passed through a period where your voice was challenged. Your voice was challenged. Isn't that interesting? And then you turn around and develop a voice disorder. How did that come about? When did that start for you? The breakdown of your voice.
Yes, and it was actually gradual. But I can remember in elementary school going to yell out a friend's name and realizing, oh, I can't yell. And I remember the moment of realizing it. And of course, right, you're in elementary school, you don't think too much about it. So I just started to approach people and tap them on the shoulder to get their attention.
Yeah.
But it was elementary school where I realized, oh, I can't actually yell out to get someone's attention.
Wow.
Um, and then around, age 35 is when I started to notice it being difficult to speak in groups. And I just assumed that I was just nervous.
Wow.
Because people would always tell me, you're shy, you have all of these different points of view that have turned out not to actually be true.
Yes. My
So
goodness.
it just built.
I hadn't heard of a case before that started so early in childhood. I thought it would start like around in your 30s, between your 30s and 50s. I really didn't know that it could actually start so early.
Yeah, and you and I met in a Facebook group.
Yeah.
People with Spasmodic Dysphonia, and there are some people in there that are 18 and 19 years old.
Wow.
Because I also thought that was true. I thought, oh, this is just for people later in life. But because it is gradual, as far as they know right now, I wonder how many of us had little bits of it.
Yes.
I've always been super aware of my internal world.
Yeah. I was never, I remember, I think I can pinpoint the day that my voice broke, that I noticed that my voice was trembling uncontrollably. It was during a very traumatic experience in my life at the time. And I feel like my body just couldn't handle the weight of it all, and that's how it manifested. It broke my voice. I feel like trauma broke my voice. That's how trauma showed up. One of the ways trauma showed up in my life. But I was in my mid 30s at the time, or early 30s at the time. Yeah. Wow. Now, so as a child, you realize you can't yell. Was it distressing for you when you realized you couldn't yell?
Not necessarily. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but I just realized I'm not able to, yell across the schoolyard, and I just accepted it as reality.
What about being able to pronounce certain words? What about the voice trembling? What about people noticing and commenting on your voice? When did that kind of begin?
Yes. So I was in my 30s.
That's when it began? So people left you alone all this time until you were in your 30s?
It didn't really impact like the shaking and the quivering and the cutting out.
Yeah.
That didn't actually start until the 30s.
Wow.
I knew I had a difficult time, going through and drive through and being able to order. People just couldn't understand me. And so people were always just like, well, you're just soft-spoken.
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't, the breaking didn't start until a little later.
Wow. Interesting. Now, do you tell your story publicly?
I do. It actually has been a number of years since I've spoken about it, more publicly, but because the nature of my work, I'm speaking to people and often speaking in a class or a group, I will begin with it. I'll say, you might notice my voice sounds a little bit different.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm having a good talking day or a not great talking day.
Yeah.
Because it depends.
Yeah.
It's not super reliable.
Right.
I let people know, like, with vocal disorder, this is, we all have something.
Yes, we all have something.
So I often like to talk about it because we can all relate. We all have something in our life that we want to use to stop ourselves from stepping out of our comfort zone, being able to step out into the world and expose ourselves. And with something like a vocal disorder, it isn't something I can hide. And for a lot of people, it is. They can just not share about it, or they can have coping mechanisms. Then they can put out what they show the world. But for us, they say our heart is on our sleeves. Our voices are right here.
Yeah. So, okay, let's acknowledge some of our guests today. We have Prophet Mother. She says, thank you for bringing awareness to this. Yes, of course. Prophet Mother said, I had that exact experience as a child. That's interesting. I'd love to hear more about that. And then Danielle Armstrong has joined us and she says, hey, family. Hey, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Marilyn, Simplify and Thrive also says, greetings, ladies. Marilyn has found your information and she has put it up there for everyone to see. That's fabulous. Oh,
Thank
that's
you. Thank you.
oh my God. So Simplify and Thrive looks like April. Hey, April, so glad to have you. Yay! Wonderful. All right. So, okay, so let's talk about some of people's reactions to your voice. All right. Let's go back to the earlier days when people started like, oh, you sound like that. What would people's reaction be? And then I'll share some of mine.
So some of the common reactions are first, before anyone says anything, they start reaching for their own throat.
No.
They start looking concerned, and they go, "Can I get you a cup of water? Do you need I get a lot of, are you sick? Or are
Yes,
you
yes,
okay?
yes.
Are you emotional? Like, it's gonna be okay, sweetheart."
Yes.
Because with the shaking, often it sounds like we're nervous.
Yes, 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 exactly, exactly. And that was the most distressing part. It still is the most distressing part. Is like when I'm not nervous, I sound like I'm nervous. I sound like I'm going to have a breakdown, but I'm not. But I cannot control how my voice is. So when my voice was very, very trembly, oh my God, it was so bad. I used to have to do this, pressing on my vocal cords here to try to calm the shakiness because it was like out of control. And oh my God, it was so distressing to have people make comments. What happened to your throat? And people, complete strangers, wanting to pray for me to heal my, oh my goodness, it was too much. I was very, very ashamed and very embarrassed about the way my voice was. I really was. It was a very hard process of transitioning to accepting. It was very hard. Now, what remedies are there? Some resources or remedies that you've tried to help you to cope with this disorder?
There are a number of them, actually. It's interesting. In 2016, when it was the most difficult, when I was, I wasn't really able to do a lot of the work that I was doing. As a result, I'm not able to make a phone call.
Yes.
And I just want to bring this up, and if you don't mind, just for a moment, I hope that there are those of you who are listening, and if you're listening and you know someone who is suffering with a vocal disorder, that they'll come and listen to this conversation. Because until you are someone who begins to lose your voice in a speaking world, you have no idea what it's like. And the level of vulnerability, that you have when you are unable to communicate. For a while there, I was writing my coffee order on a piece of paper or on my phone and showing it to people. Training close friends or relationships around me to do the talking for me in public. Ordering in a noisy restaurant. Having other people make a phone call for me because I wasn't going to be able to spell out my name or say my numbers to give my phone number.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to put that out there for anyone who might be listening. Like, we hear you. Like, we understand the challenge, and how emotionally charged, that can be, and also how isolating it can feel.
Yeah, isolating, absolutely. Oh my goodness. That was the thing.
So you asked, about some of the things that I did. So 2016, I sort of hit a low point. I was not using the tools that I use in my own coaching practice and healing work. I was not using it to address my voice. I was completely avoiding it, and it just continued to get worse and worse. And I remember there was a moment, and I thought, if I do not get vulnerable with myself and address what's really going on here, I'm going to completely lose my ability
Yeah.
to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was the most vulnerable thing yet that I have had to do in my own personal journey. Because even beginning to sit with it and get comfortable, there were so many emotions there. There were so many past traumas that were there.
Yes.
They were just connected to it, attached to it. And it was very vulnerable to expose it, even to myself, let alone reach out and get assistance from someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I also didn't know there was a name for what was happening with my voice.
Yes.
And I had a wonderful woman I went to school with, who is a speech pathologist. And she saw a video that I put out, and she wrote me on Facebook and said, "Wow, you're so brave to put this out. I didn't know about this spasmodic dysphonia." I went, "The what?"
Wow.
And so I instantly went to Google and I looked it up, went to YouTube, and I started listening, and I can even feel the emotion now.
Yeah.
And tears started flowing, and I thought, oh my God, there are people out there with a voice that sounds like mine.
Yes. 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 I
Like,
remember when I got a diagnosis, I felt exactly the same way you just described. Because for years I was so like distressed and feeling like isolated. I mean, it was so bad. And I'm in sales and I'm trying to work and I need my voice as a tool for the job and everything. And I can't speak and I can't express myself. And customers are having trouble understanding me and I can't get on the phone and everything. And then one day I just looked up speech therapist or something in the area, and I went and I saw this woman, and she told me, she knew exactly what I had and told me, and I said, wow, there is a name for this. Oh my gosh. And on the one hand it was relieving, and on the other hand it was scary as heck, right? And the thing is, go ahead.
well, the first thing that you start to read when you look up this particular disorder, and a lot of different disorders that are out there, is there's nothing you can do to change it.
Right.
It's the first thing that you hear. You can get a Botox shot into your larynx. You can do some speech and language, but you're never going to be able to change this.
Right.
And
Right.
it is a lot when you hear that and you think, oh my God, it can kind of spiral you.
Yeah.
And that was part of that moment for me, is I was really buying into that point of view. This is unchangeable. And I went, all the work I do is about changing the unchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not applying it to this because this
Mm-hmm.
feels so real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it can be disheartening when you first get a diagnosis,
Yeah.
because it's like there's nothing you could do. This is it. It's a lifelong condition.
Now, I think I remember the woman telling me that, because I told her I'm really upset about this because I used to be able to sing. I used to sing very well. I cannot anymore. And I think she told me that with treatment, whatever, I'd be able to sing again, but I doubt it. I really, really doubt it. And I have not, honest to goodness, gone back to any professionals about it since, because I feel I feel like I'm just gonna, the treatments are supposed to be the Botox that you mentioned, and I think that there's some kind of surgery, but from what I'm hearing from the people who've had these treatments, it doesn't really help, and sometimes the relief is temporary. Now my voice sounds good today, and I've come to really love my voice, right? I've come to really, really love it because I feel like it sets me apart. It makes me different, makes me unique. I like it now. But there was a time when I did not. And one of the one of the reasons I was able to begin to embrace my voice was when I was distressed and complaining to people about it. One woman said, and I used to do some public speaking with my voice the way it was. And she said, your voice suits what you do, right? It suits your work because it makes your story even more compelling. And then a couple of other people would tell me, your voice is you. And when I started hearing those things, it started to help me to start looking at my voice in a different way. So now, today, I love my voice, but you hear me speaking. You guys, you hear me speaking, but you don't know that I'm actually doing tricks to be able to speak. You think you hear me speaking comfortably, but you don't know. You can't tell that there are some tricks I'm using right now to be able to speak so that you can understand me, because Melanie can attest to this, there are some words we can't say very easily. There's some letters we can't pronounce. Words that start with vowels are very hard for us to pronounce. So I use certain tricks that you might not be able to tell that I am doing something interesting to be able to talk, but I struggle to talk. And let me ask you this, Melanie, does your voice hurt sometimes?
It does. It does occasionally.
That's what I want to know.
If
It actually hurt.
because we are having to be so mindful of what it is that we're saying and how we're saying it, there's a lot going on, right? And physically just supporting the voice and being able to attempt to make sound, right? Yeah. So the candor of our voice is going to be different because we have to, like you said, we have to use all of these different kind of techniques depending again on the day.
Yes.
And I've noticed sometimes what I'm going to say, I have a negotiation that goes on inside that is like, I'm thinking about what I'm going to say, and I have to think about what I'm going to say because I'm not sure if I can say that word.
Exactly.
Or just half the word.
Exactly. Wow.
I'll tell people who do classes with me, I'm like, if you only hear part of a word and you don't know what I'm talking about, let me know, because my brain will have thought the whole word, but that's not everything that came out.
Yes, exactly. Wow.
So tell me, what are some of the techniques that you are using?
Sometimes it's the way that I breathe. Sometimes it's the way that I kind of hold back. Sometimes it's the way that I kind of start one word, breathe, and then say the word again, right? Sometimes it's just a certain way that I choose to pronounce the word, I
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So is it ever easier for you when you really hype yourself up and you get a lot of energy moving in your body? You get really enthusiastic? Does it help?
Not necessarily. As a matter of fact, it might make it worse. It's very important that I be calm. That's why I'm always searching for a way to be calm. There are times when I try to make it more of a whisper, and then like right now, I'm trying to make it deeper, right? Trying to make it deeper to kind of steady it, because otherwise it's going to be yeah. And then my voice, there are different types of spasmodic dysphonia, and the adductor and abductor, I don't know, I don't get into all that because it's too much for my brain. But I have the combination thing where I have the breathiness, I have the hoarseness, which I like. I have the tremors, I have the cracking and the breaking and that kind. I have it all, and I never know which one my voice is going to do. So the one that still bothers me some is the tremors. Those I don't like at all. But the other things I can handle. But yeah, So when it cracks and everything, I might, swallow a little bit and come again. And then I try to talk and not bring too much attention to it. You know what I mean? Because when you bring attention to it, then people notice it more and they feel like they need to comment and say something. Yeah. So, but also, I have noticed that since I've been on a certain combination of antidepressants, it has calmed my voice down a lot. It really, really, really has, to the point where, like, people in my family, they're like, your voice sounds so good now, so good. I'm like, I think
well, one of the things they talk about with some of the newer research with spasmodic dysphonia particularly is they believe it's a neurological disorder. It isn't
right,
necessarily, it affects, in dystonia is the inability to control these muscles.
right.
So we've got the contracting and then the contracting open. So the strangled speech and then the breathy when it gets contracted open. But the part of the brain that they're looking at is the part where our emotions also sit. So they're looking at like that there is an possible, emotional correlation to it.
I believe it. I believe it. I do believe it is very much stress related. Because remember, I mentioned that I remember when mine broke, I was under severe stress. And it is true that sometimes it gets more pronounced if I'm stressed, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Some people are allowed to have a little bit of nervousness and go about their life. For us, you get a little bit of nervousness and it's automatically like, whoop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting that, you said taking the antidepressants and getting, more of a sense of balance in yourself has helped. So some of the things that I have done, is one, really starting to look and start clearing the old energy that I have. And that tells me I need to be careful with what I say to whatever is limiting me or making me believe that it isn't safe to actually express. And also, I have a tendency to be someone who expresses things not everyone likes to hear.
Yes.
So being able to express even in the face of others' discomfort, doing a lot of my clearing work to have more ease with this.
Yes.
And then in the last year, have you heard of EFT or emotional freedom technique?
Yes.
So I use the hashtag Spasmodic Dysphonia in a lot of my videos. So one of the authors of the book, The Tapping Solution, Nick Ortner, who is a lovely being, reached out and offered a couple of sessions because he wanted to see if it would assist with spasmodic dysphonia.
Wow.
So I did a couple of sessions with him and it was amazing. And at the end of working with him, after I did the tapping, my voice would really drop into my body and I could feel the vibration and the resonance and the clarity of it, which was amazing. So one of the things that I do when I know I'm going to speak at, I do sound healing, but I also lead meditations.
Yes.
That go along with. So if I know I'm going to do this, I will do some tapping on the way to the event. And that has actually been helpful. And because of his work with me and a few other people, he has an app, the Tapping Solution app. There's one for spasmodic dysphonia specifically.
Are you serious? Girl,
and it's really, I had a friend listen to it as well. And she's like, this is amazing. She's like, this is great for anybody.
Yeah.
Who feels like they're holding and they can't really have freedom to be able to express themselves safely.
Yes. That's amazing.
And it's made a huge difference. It's made a huge difference.
Wow, that is so cool. So yeah, something else to consider. That's so cool. Let me pause for a moment and take some of these questions and comments from the people who are joining us. Daniel says, how can we best support those in our lives that are experiencing voice loss?
Do you want me to take that first, or would you like
to go ahead?
So there's a couple of things. I don't think there are any hard and fast rules. I think with anybody, especially with something like this, it's very vulnerable, right? And when people would offer suggestions or ask me like, how are you doing? It would actually bother me. So people in my life that could just act normal and didn't need to have a response to the way my voice sounded that day was really helpful.
Yeah.
So for people to not actually react.
Yes.
Was really helpful for me because so many people in the world are, oh my gosh, this is bothering me. How can I fix you? How can I help you? So I would say, well, giving people the space to not have to explain or justify how they're feeling or what's going on.
Yeah.
And the other is to ask, how can I support you with this?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you need from me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to let them know you're available if they just want to be able to talk about what it's like for them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. It makes me think of, because this is considered a disability too, and I'll cover that a little bit later, and how people who are disabled really don't like all the additional attention. They, don't want you calling out the disability because, just treat me like someone normal. Yeah. All right. So Daniel says, thank you so much for sharing your stories. It is really helping me to be more compassionate and understanding. Yes. Yep. That's what we do. That's what we do. And April says, I've heard there are 3 different types of SD. Really? April, you know about this? Is there specific reasons why one would have one versus the other? That's a good question, but I don't think there is, Danielle. There is nothing that would cause one to have one other than the other, as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
Just like in my case, I told you I have all of them. Go ahead.
Yes. They're still doing a lot of research. This is something that doesn't affect a huge part of our population.
Very rare.
So it isn't something that there are, there's a lot of funding to be able to do a huge amount of research. They think it may be genetic. So, if I look at my grandmothers on my mother's side, each one of them did start to have some issues with speaking, but it wasn't until a little later in life. So there's still a lot of information that we actually don't know about specifically with, as they don't necessarily, they think it's neurological.
Yeah.
They're not absolutely certain. So.
Yeah. Let me see. I think Prophet Mother had said something. Okay. Prophet Mother said she had the same experience. Okay. All right. Now let's see. Let's see. Upcoming events. Oh, she's talking about your upcoming event. That Marilyn is something else.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Marilyn is something else. Upcoming events with Melanie, Studio B, Napa.
I'm like, ooh, I got to get on there and add all the rest of my events.
I know. Wow, that's awesome. So there you go, you guys. You can check out Melanie's event. And then Destination Harmony and Tranquility, she said. Wow. Destination Studio B Napa. Destination for Harmony and Tranquility. That's Melanie's studio. That's amazing.
This studio likes to pull her own energy. Apparently, she's.
Wow.
It's really been something interesting. Any connection to stuttering at all?
Here's the thing. When my voice was trembling so bad, I used to wish it was stuttering instead of the tremors, because I felt like then people would understand. and they wouldn't have to ask me and make comments and want to pray for me and all this kind of stuff. They would understand that I'm stuttering, but people didn't understand the tremors. So I think it's somewhat related, because stuttering is also neurological, right?
I'm actually not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not. I mean, I would say it's something similar is that it isn't something that you can necessarily control.
Yeah.
I think, like you were saying, when kind of like your internal environment and your external environment it affects and plays a role. So we can't completely control all of the outside environment, but I know even with stuttering, sometimes meditation, doing things that actually create more of a sense of peace and ease in your own world is something. But as far as physiologically, I'm not sure what or if there's a connection there.
Yeah. Okay. You guys, please remember to like, share, subscribe to the channel, please. And when you subscribe, please turn on that notification bell so you won't miss an episode. All right. And Laura says, I think there may be a link between handwriting and SD. Most people with SD have bad handwriting. I have excellent handwriting, girl.
I would say that's the majority of the population, quite possibly.
Yeah.
And I think with anything like this, one of the things I think that we have a tendency to do is start to look for the reason for something and start to look for correlations, that are there that may or may not be relevant. I know for me, with spasmodic dysphonia or whatever it is that comes up in my life, one of the things that I've chosen to do is look at this from the space of what is the gift in this, right? So whether it's stuttering or spasmodic dysphonia or whatever it would be in our lives, pivoting to this rather than looking for why is this happening, looking at what is this in my life, what gift is this. It is a mindset shift that has been really, really helpful.
Yeah, pretty much start viewing our imperfections as gifts. Let's see. Prophet Mother says, do either of you have relatives that also have this? No. My family has, you know what? My father probably has a little speech thing with him. He probably does. My biological father. I think he does have a little something. It's very subtle, but like you'll see him begin to talk and his mouth will be moving before the words come out, something like that. So maybe, like Melanie said earlier, it could be genetic. Yeah. But other than that, my family, they have beautiful voices. Go ahead, Melanie.
Well, and when they look at genetics now, there are certain genes that turn on and get turned off. So even if it's something that runs in your family, it may not necessarily show up. But like you were describing earlier, if you have a traumatic event or something that happens, it's our external environment and our internal environment will also begin to turn on and off those things that are living in our genetics.
Yes.
So you could have family members that have that as a genetic possibility, but it doesn't show up. And for us, for whatever reason, whether it's the trauma or whatever it might be, it flips that gene on.
Yes, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I'm a big believer in neuroplasticity. And that means that the brain is plastic. That means it's mutable and changeable. So that when people say, oh, it's a neurological thing, I'm like, well, that's great. Because if it is, then we can actually create a different pathway for being able to verbalize and speak in our brain. So one of the things that I've noticed, and it's something they talk about with some people who have SD is if I speak in an accent, then my voice doesn't break as much. If it's really interesting. And if you look at languages, accents, playing, those are also all affecting different parts of the brain. So I've played around with it a little bit to just start to see if I can actually start creating different pathways in my brain for being able to verbalize.
I guess that's what I'm doing with these little tricks that I do. I guess that's what I'm doing.
Absolutely. And I've noticed that the more playful I can be with it, the basal ganglia, someone is saying, yes, Laura's saying neurological or fine motor skills, neurological or fine motor skills like handwriting and speech, I think is the same part of the brain, the basal ganglia. Cool.
Okay, that's good. That's good information.
So the thing I've noticed is the more playful I can be with all of it, the easier it is for me to speak.
Yeah.
The more that I start to get concerned, the more that I start getting upset.
Yes.
Or like, oh, I need to be careful here and be careful here. And if I worry about things, like more difficulty. But even if I can, in a moment, make this pivot to being playful, to being lighthearted, to being like, I don't care what my voice sounds like.
Right.
I'm going to show up and I'm going to have a freaking amazing time.
Right.
All of a sudden,
it's true.
Look at that.
It's true. I sound good. It's true. Because Melanie, imagine me having this voice disorder and take myself up and starting a show on YouTube, knowing darn well sometimes I can't even talk.
I'm like, how much can I enjoy the sound of my voice today?
Yes.
Well, Laura is saying, she said, I agree. Being mind shift is about accepting and not pushing down or pushing away, looking for reasons or excuses instead of just embracing. So I think for me, one was getting the information. This is what's happening. Because I was judging myself for, I must just be insecure.
Yes.
I must just be nervous. What is wrong with me? I just talk like a normal person. And I just thought it's my own insecurities. And I just need to keep trying to fix myself. And then getting the information of like, oh, this is actually like a physical thing happening. Acknowledging and embracing like, all right, this is something that's going on. This isn't about me being wrong. And then the second piece that was so important that I didn't get to right away, but eventually was, there is nothing that is absolutely set. We can tweak, shift, and change even things people tell us are unchangeable. I work with people who have cancer, and we've dissolved their tumors, using energy work and all kinds of different things. People every single day baffle the Western medical community with what they're able to change. And this isn't about giving false hope. It's going, look, maybe it'll tweak just a little bit. Maybe the change you'll receive is that you'll learn to love your voice, like you were saying. When I learned to embrace and love the sound of my voice, even though it isn't picture perfect the way people are comfortable with all the time, or say we're supposed to be. But that we can shift or change. So not believing this is a life sentence.
Right, exactly. Yeah. All right.
So with vocal disorder or anything else.
Yes, we're coming to that too. So, doing my little research, and I found they're saying that, and we touched on this earlier, that SD is a brain and nervous system issue. And then there are some people where they have actually found polyps or nodules or cysts on their vocal cords. And I, ever since I saw that woman that diagnosed me, I've been afraid to explore further with I've made appointments with ENT doctors and just didn't show up because I'm afraid of hearing we don't know and we can't do anything. And it's like, why spend money to hear we don't know and nothing can be done? But so SD affects one, it's very rare. It affects 1 in 100,000 persons, right? And they've come up with a new name for it called laryngeal dystonia. But don't you prefer spasmodic dysphonia? Doesn't that make more sense to your brain?
It's definitely easier to pronounce.
Yeah, laryngeal. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing
Laryngeal, which is the larynx.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it is more specific.
Yes, yes. And then it is classified as an official disability, by the way.
Oh,
And
wow.
yes, and it's under some kind of communication code. It's like they classify it as a communication disorder. But even though they recognize it as a disability, they still give you a hard time to prove it if you file for disability for it, right? Some kind of functional voice difficulty, they call it. So, yeah, so, but I mentioned before how people have, complete strangers have prayed for me. And we talked about how being on the phone, I used to dread being on the phone because somehow it gets amplified when you're on the phone, right? So imagine doing phone interviews and people asking you what's wrong with your voice. It is so embarrassing and so distressing. Not anymore. I don't let it bother me anymore. But speaking up in meetings and stuff, like, when you go places and everybody's introducing themselves, and that's kind of distressing when you're on Zoom meetings at work and stuff. Yeah. But
and those the times when we're sitting there preparing ourselves to be able to speak.
Right.
When it's coming up to our turn.
Exactly.
I'm like, all right, I'm feeling my feet on the floor. I mean, talk about something that makes you really get present. Like,
yes.
This is something that really I have to know where I am.
Right.
I'm grateful in a way. Like, I really look at what it is that I would like to say. What is it that I really like to communicate here?
Exactly.
And in what ways do I need to prepare myself to get really present? Because I can speak far more clearly when I'm really present with myself, when I am really embodied, when I'm really connected to my whole physical body, when I can feel the resonance of my voice. It's so much easier for me to be able to speak, even if you notice it right now. Like, all of a sudden, my voice just got even clearer, and there's even more of a sense of flow.
Yeah.
But I'm like, wow, I don't know that I would be practicing this had I not developed spasmodic dysphonia.
Yeah. Wow. See there. But
and I don't know that everyone knows this, but Robert Kennedy, who is running for president, this is the vocal disorder that he has as well.
Yes. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And a couple of other people. One of the people that impressed me the most with it is Diane Rem on NPR. Being a whole popular broadcaster with this situation going on. Now, so there was a horror movie, and the main character was played by what's her name, Lupita Nyong'o, right? Her character's name was Red, and they made that character have spasmodic dysphonia, and well, it upset the SD community because they, in the show, they kind of demonized the person with the SD, and so the spasmodic.
So what I heard was she played like a horror character.
Yes.
And in order to get the sound of the voice for her character, she studied people with spasmodic dysphonia.
Right.
And she mentioned it in an interview that that's what she listened to people with this disorder in order to get this sort of scary voice.
Right.
And people were up in arms about that.
Yes. And so the Spasmodic Dysphonia Association released a statement saying one of the toughest parts of having a disability is that people make assumptions based on the way you walk, talk, or act, sometimes with little understanding of what is causing it. And we understand that hearing the unique sound caused by symptoms of spasmodic dysphonia was the spark of inspiration for the voice in the character. But what is difficult is that thousands of people living with spasmodic dysphonia is the association to their voice with what might be considered haunting. So that was hard for people with spasmodic dysphonia to watch because it kind of like demonized their voices. All right. So we talked about Robert F. Kennedy. Selma Blair also has it. And we talked about Diane Wren on NPR. But they also say it is akin to other neurological disorders like Parkinson's and epilepsy and Alzheimer's, anxiety disorders, migraines, and strokes. But did you ever see the movie The King's Speech?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, when I saw that movie, I felt so bad for him because I was like, yeah, I understand.
Get it.
I understand The King's Speech. Oh, all right, let's see what else we got. I find the inflections in your voice is simply beautiful. Really? That is nice to hear.
It's so interesting, Winsome, and everyone here with us right now. There are some people that are like, your voice is so soothing. Like, even on days when I have more difficulty speaking, they're like, I feel so like calm, and it's very soothing, and I love it. And then someone can listen to the same recording or the same exact speech and say, you need to do something about your voice. It really is a problem. If you're going to be public, you need to fix this. I've had people say that to me. What are you going to do about that voice? What are you going to do about this?
Wow.
Yeah, or you shouldn't be doing a radio show because of this.
Wow.
Aren't
people something? People are something else. But you
know what?
Can't do.
I figure, you know what? There's going to be something about me that triggers people, and that's not any of my business.
Yes.
What you think about my voice and how you feel about it and how that makes you feel is actually not my problem.
My God.
So this is a little more. So people, I look at this in a couple of ways. One, I use it as a way to educate.
Mm-hmm.
Even with, the woman who used the sound of people with vocal disorders for her character, the fact that she got on an interview and actually spoke to it, for me, because I have a very different point of view generally than people do, I went, wow, I'm so glad she brought awareness to the vocal disorder.
Yes.
I wonder how much more research can be done. How many more people will discover that they have this condition and realize they're not alone.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with it.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with it. I look at people in the world who do all kinds of things and have it inform and inspire me to have a character, whatever it might be. I don't take it personally. For me, I'm like, wow, how can we use this to our advantage? It's public, it's international news right now. Let's ride this wave. What good can this do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I will use it and just let people know. Have you heard of a vocal disorder called spasmodic dysphonia? This is how it affects your voice. You might know someone with it as well. Mm-hmm. This is what's happening. And people go, oh, thank you for sharing. And then there are other times when people start to say something and I say, this is just what my voice sounds like.
Exactly. Yes. I've had to say that a lot. This is just my voice.
This is just my voice. And I do not explain. I do not justify.
Right.
This is my voice.
This is my voice. Oh my God. Yes.
Oh, it's so empowering.
Yes, it is. It is. Because yes, I would get the comments and the questions and I say, it's my voice. Do you have a cold? Are you sick? No, it's my voice.
I think generally in our society, the way that most humans work is we're looking for things to be living within this norm.
Mm-hmm.
Living within, this is the majority of what people think, feel like, look like, sound like, think like, believe like. So this is the target. This is the value. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody needs to work to get themselves to fit this norm.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm like, no, people speak many different ways. How many people go to voice therapy to change their accent? Oh, I don't want people to know I live from the southern states in the United States because there's this perception of a lack of intelligence because I have a southern accent, because all of that. And work to change themselves so they can fit what makes people comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I have always been rebellious. I've always been a misfit, so why wouldn't my voice be too?
Yes. Yes.
So I'm like, you know what? Not everybody sounds like you.
Yes.
Not everybody sounds the same. And I like to look at this as a possibility and a way to mess with this little sliver of norm.
I like it. I like it. A rebel with a cause.
Exactly.
Oh God.
Like life is not fun when everyone looks the same, sounds the same, is the same.
Right.
So having something like this creates an opening for this conversation of what if different isn't bad?
Yeah.
What's the gift in your difference?
What if different isn't bad? I like that. What if different isn't bad? Yeah. So the lesson we want you guys to take away from this today about the sharing our voices is how we can learn to love our imperfections. And we want to emphasize the importance of self-acceptance and how embracing our imperfections can lead to greater self-love and confidence. Self-love and confidence. Imperfections provide opportunities for learning and growth as they challenge us to overcome obstacles and be more resilient. Put in the chat, you guys, some of your imperfections that you work hard to hide or that you have come to accept and turn into a strength. And let me see what people are saying. Okay. Right. Self-acceptance, just as we are. Oh, we just said that. Go ahead, April. April is on top of it. Marilyn says, be happy today. Hey, she was greeting. Oh, look at Alicia Renise. Oh my goodness. So good to see you, Alicia. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. Marilyn says you feel calm, relaxing, less stress. Yes, I think we're talking about that time about centering ourselves. And Laura says something interesting a speech therapist brought to my attention once. Speaking to my pet in a different voice as one does, my voice tremors less. Really? Like Melanie was saying about speaking with an accent. Wow.
It's a different part of the brain.
Wow.
So when someone suffers a stroke and they lose the ability to move, let's say their arm, let's say their right arm, they have to find a new pathway in the brain for the new movement.
Yeah.
So I still really, really wonder with our voices, like if we were willing to completely go off the rails with what we think we needed to sound like, and we just started to play and have fun, I wonder what other voice would be available for us to access and tap into.
Wow. My goodness. Let me see what else Laura says. I've also had loads of questions about my voice, which is hard. I kind of want a standard to go to reply, but can't think of one. Any suggestions? Girl, that's my voice. We said it just now. That's my voice, and just love it and move on. Let them stay there and stew in whatever they want to stew in, but that's your voice. You love it, and that's the end of the conversation. Yeah.
And what I would add to that, Laura, is why is it hard?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe exploring that for you in your world, like what are your points of view about your voice? And this is something that I've had to do to get to the point where I could be like, yeah, this is my voice.
Yeah.
And not feel like I need to explain or have it be hard. Right. So that might be an interesting exploration for you.
Mm-hmm.
When people do notice and it feels really hard, what is that for you?
Mm-hmm.
Have you really been able to embrace the difference that your voice is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Back to self-acceptance.
Yeah.
And so
And
now,
it might depend on the day.
yeah. Yeah, right.
Mhm.
True. All right. Now let's see. Marilyn is advertising the studio again, your destination for tranquility and harmony, right? StudioBnapa.com. You guys to check out Melanie. All right. And then she says upcoming events. She's advertising the upcoming event again.
Wow.
Go ahead and check her out, you guys. All right. Be happy today, coaching said. I have been diagnosed with vocal cord dysfunction, really. And occasionally my voice cords will slam shut. Really, Kim? That's interesting to know. One would never know listening to your voice because your voice seems so calm and relaxed. Alicia Renee says, beautiful, beautiful, right?
And thank you for sharing that. Like, it's, even if your voice just sounds a little different sometimes, it's just a vulnerable thing. Our voices, you know, people say that they would rather be the person in the coffin than the one giving the eulogy. There is so much about speaking and our voices being heard, especially in public, that is just so vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know? So I definitely get it. Like,
wow, you just
thank
said
you.
about right there. You just did. All right, guys. Marilyn says, give this video a thumbs up, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Don't miss out. Also, leave a comment or just say hi. You guys, please leave a comment. Matter of fact, I know this is asking a lot, but after the video ends, if you go back to the channel and leave a comment there, it would be really, really helpful. We want some of this great information that is shared on this channel to reach more people, and the way that that's going to happen is for you guys to engage more. So I really appreciate it. And she says, even on the shorts, just leave a little comment. It helps a lot. Thank you, Marilyn. Let's see what Alicia says. What is the gift of your difference? Yes. What is the gift of your difference? That's it. That's it. Is it a gift? It is a gift. Mm-hmm.
And it's not a question that we often ask ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, we're so often, you know, Brene Brown, who talks a lot about vulnerability.
Yes.
He was talking about how often that the opposite of belonging is fitting in.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite of belonging
Is
is fitting in.
Wow.
Most of us have the point of view that we have to fit in to belong. We have to change ourselves to be more accepted, to be able to belong to a group or belong to a community. And she says true belonging is where you are not asked to be anything other than you. You don't fit. You don't change yourself to fit in. You are the difference that you are. And not only is your difference accepted, but your difference is demanded. For you to be authentically who you are, differences in all, is true belonging.
That is so good. That is good stuff, Melanie. Whew. Yes, Daniel says, I'm working on not worrying about what others think of me. That's it. That's freedom. That's freedom. Marilyn says, more comfortable with you. Absolutely. Gosh, we got to get there. We got to get there. Be happy today. I can breathe out, but not in. Wow. I've gone through therapy to focus on relaxing my throat and changing my breathing. It tends to happen when I'm more stressed. That's true. That stress is a killer, man. That stress, oh Lord have mercy. Whew, I've had psoriasis, a skin disorder since childhood, was always trying to hide by wearing body covering clothing. Yes, only in adulthood realized what other people thought about me doesn't matter. Wow, we are growing. Aren't we growing?
Woo!
Yes, growing, accepting ourselves. This has been absolutely amazing. So grateful for your voices. You are so welcome. And oh, here goes Marilyn. She found some Brene Brown. She found
Marilyn, you are amazing.
Marilyn is something else, man. My goodness. She is a wizard. Marilyn. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. So we're turning our imperfections into strengths. Now, I love hosting the show and discussions about various topics that affect us as human because the role of community support is embracing imperfections. In the role of community in embracing imperfections, as sharing our struggles can help us realize that we are not alone, right? And I mentioned earlier how when my voice was concerning me greatly, how people encourage me. If I hadn't shared, I would have missed out on those encouraging words that made such difference to how I view my voice today. So the whole business of community and of sharing and being vulnerable, sharing our vulnerabilities is very healing. So at this point, I want to let you know that I do have a support group, right? It is now available. The link is in the description box. We're going to meet once a month on Zoom. Yes, once a month on Zoom, we're going to meet. And then you'll also have the newsletter that's going to come every week with more resources. And I want to invite you to come and join the community. The support is amazing, and the link is in the bio. Also, there are the venting sessions available if you're overwhelmed, stressed, in crisis, confused, needs an opinion, or just want to talk to someone. I am an empathetic listener. Book a session for you or as a gift to someone else. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel, give a thumbs up, leave a comment, and share with someone who you think might need it. So, Melanie, we're getting ready to close, but I have one last question for you. What would you like to big up yourself for in this season?
Well, thank you to Marilyn for putting my website and my studio in there so much. I would say I'd love to big up myself for really stepping out and opening a brick and mortar space for people to be able to come in and explore their differences, to find peace and ease and harmony in their life. And this choice has made me have to get out and engage with people and speak to people and speak to people all the time, and to invite. And it's a choice that I made that I knew was going to push me out of my comfort zone. So I want to big up myself for that, because it was a big choice. Yes. to put myself out there in that way, and it's just the beginning. So thank you for being part of stepping out into the world again.
Yes, I love it. Big up yourself, girl. Proud of you.
Woo, thank you.
Proud of you. Oh my gosh, Yvette Boone. Yvette has joined us. Yvette, I'll be watching the replay. Yes, Yvette, you gotta watch it, girl. It's something else. The Speaker's Peace Venting Hotline, Marilyn is putting there for you guys. Okay. And then she's putting up this studio again, right? So, all right, guys. So let us continue to celebrate our differences, right? Celebrate the diversity of our voices and our imperfections. If we can see our imperfections as gifts. Somebody mentioned that earlier. If we can see our imperfections as gifts, they can enrich our lives and make the world a more vibrant place. Let's make greater effort to accept ourselves and not berate ourselves so much. Imperfections make us original and more interesting. Big up yourself. You are incredible. When you begin to list all the things about you, you are absolutely incredible. And until next time, may there be ease in your being and may you be free. Thank you so much, everyone that joined us today. And thank you, Melanie. You are amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Winsome.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you, everyone. Lovely to meet you all.
Thank you, April. Be happy today. She has one more comment. It took forever to get diagnosed. Yes. And I've had an ambulance call for me twice. People thought it was asthma. Ambulance called for me twice. Wow. All right. All right, guys. April says, wonderful show. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hang on a second, Melanie.